wave, catching a road wave. A big surprise, I'm gonna rise and flash my tooth cane. All the buff dudes, safe on the beach food. They're gonna need a bigger boat and barrels real soon. I'm a sea king, a CGI thing. I'm here to eat and bare my teeth and shake a tail fin. I'm lonely and taking a ride. Lured in by the bucket and shove. It's one weakness I can't hide. Take me to your bucket and shove.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Captain Steve, and this week we are back with another episode of Seasick Cinema because I love doing these episodes so much. And this week we're doing Deep Fear from 2023, directed by Marcus Adams. And this week I am joined by BP from the Let's Talk Horror channel. How you doing, BP?
I'm absolutely living the dream. I've got to come up with another fucking catchphrase or something like that. Living the dream seems to be my go-to, but it seems to be the exact sort of wording for my life. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm good. Thank you I'm excited to be here. I like talking about shit movies, so why not?
Yeah, this one has actually come up in a lot of recent conversations. It came up with Faith Roswell. I did an episode about talking about her book, and she talked about this movie. And then I think a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if it was during the episode, but Joe Lascola and I were also talking about this movie, and he also said he wasn't a fan. I'm pretty sure it was him. And then I think Josh from Super Scary also mentioned this movie recently. And so I'm like, okay, I probably have to do a Seasick Cinema episode on this movie because a lot of people seem to say it's shit. I remember being more ambivalent about it when it first came out, but now watching it now, I'm like, yeah, this definitely deserves to be on here.
Yeah, I mean, I watched when we decided, because obviously you sent me some films, and then being in the UK, like you guys got it lovely because you got shit like Tubi and all that sort of stuff. We don't have it over here, so we're stuck with like the standard streaming services, and they're all shit for horror. So I have to basically, when somebody says like, let's do these, I have to go through the list of them to try and figure out which films we can do. And then this was basically the only one that on that list that we could do. And I was like, okay, well, I'll watch the trailer. And the trailer for the movie is better than the entirety of this movie. That's how I feel, because it made me think to myself, okay, it might not be as like shit as I think that it might be. But then obviously we're going to get into probably how fucking shit I think this is. Out of all the people that you said have been talking about it, I hope that none of them liked it, because otherwise they're doing a disservice to humanity.
No, actually, nobody I have talked to has liked this movie in any way, shape, or form, as far as I can tell. As we get to it, I have a couple of nice things to say about the movie. But before we get into it, just to refresh everybody's memory, I'm going to read the Letterboxd plot synopsis. A solo trip aboard a yacht takes a terrifying turn when a woman encounters three drug traffickers clinging to the shattered remains of a boat. They soon force her to dive into shark-infested waters to retrieve kilos of cocaine from the sunken wreck. So this plot isn't even super original. We've seen it in other movies like The Deep from Peter Benchley, and even sort of like Into the Blue with Paul Walker. Something similar to that. They find like sunken treasure, but then like these drug dealers force them to go and get drugs, blah, blah, blah. So it's not even a super original story. But like, if you're going to make something not super original, at least make it good.
Yeah.
And going back trailer, and going back to the trailer, they made this movie seem like it was going to be like the cocaine shark movie.
It was definitely like, to be fair, it's a perfect trailer in regards to selling the movie of what it isn't actually about. Like, it's a really well-made trailer. Like, whoever did the trailer must have been paid a shitload of money, or should have, because they make it seem exciting when you are literally watching one of the most boring movies. And how can you make movies about sharks boring? But they did.
Yeah, they definitely did with this one somehow. I will say the CGI for the sharks actually looks really good in this movie, which actually makes it even more disappointing because like they had the ability to make this amazing and they somehow faltered almost every step of the way, I would say.
My concern is that Hollywood have found it too easy to make CGI sharks now, because I've got that in my notes as well, that the CGI sharks sort of look okay. What I hate about it is that the sharks themselves look okay, but when they're swimming through the water, like they almost become almost 2D-esque, because there's nothing, like there's no trails of them swimming in the water, there's no bubbles or anything like that around them. They've just literally got the sharks in there, and that's it. And that annoyed me when I was watching it. I was just like, you've got these reasonably realistic looking sharks, but you're not like giving them a sense that they're in water. They're almost in the sky because nothing's happening with them. So yeah, I feel like we've got to a point now where CGI sharks are too easy for Hollywood, and now that's why they look good. Because I was the same. I was just like, they look all right, and I was just like, yeah, but I've seen other movies that have got like really low budgets as well, and they look better than this. So I'm with you. The shark CGI looks good, but now I'm like, Hollywood might be really reliant on getting easy CGI sharks.
Yeah, I think they were heavily relying on the good CGI sharks and also the attractiveness of this lead actress, who's obviously a supermodel. In case anybody watching could not tell, that
Yeah.
is her full-time job, is basically being a supermodel. And at first, when I first watched this movie, when I first did the episode, I thought, okay, maybe her acting's not that bad. Maybe it's just because English doesn't seem to be her first language. But watching it again, I'm just like, no, she's just really bad. It has nothing to do with like a language barrier. Like, she's just bad.
No, she's fucking awful. Like I was really trying to. I was really trying to. I don't, I mean, you've been on my show as well. Like, I don't, whether it's good, whether it's bad, we both have the same opinion. You made a movie, that's amazing. It's more than what I've done, and incredible the fact that you've done that, and you have gone through the stress of making a movie and so on. So there's always a difficulty and always a way for me to navigate when we have these conversations, because I don't sound like I am being so horrible on a movie, but at the same time, when they're this shit, you can't help that. And she is so bad in this movie that she's like, her botox and her lip fillers she's got in mean that
Oh my God.
you have no sense of any form of emotion from her in this movie. So any time that there's like a scene where she's supposed to be upset or crying or anything like that, her face is like stone. She's like as if Medusa had looked at her. Like like you get nothing from her. So I'm with you. Like, but to be fair, the performances in this are fucking awful. Like, they're one of the worst things about this movie for me. Like, you've got the guy. I mean, for one, there's too many English people, because I hate English people, even though I am. But I hate them in movies. They do my head in movies. But in this, like, the main guy, I've seen him in something before, but he was shit in that before. But he's always angry, even though, like, even at like near the end and everything, when they're supposed to be happy, she can't move her face, and
Yeah.
he's pulling like the Orlando Bloom, I've forgotten how to act and say things, so I can't say anything apart from be angry. So if you can tell, I was pretty angry watching this movie.
Yeah, I thought maybe the female villain, I thought she was pretty good at playing crazy, but her plan to steal the drugs makes absolutely no fucking sense.
No,
Because during that conversation where she's talking with her boyfriend, brother, whoever,
brother, I think, yeah.
yeah. And so she's like, oh, yeah, if we don't give them the drugs, then they're going to be after us our whole life. But then her plan is to just take the drugs and then sell them. And I'm like, do you not think in that world that they're going to find out that you're still alive selling drugs? I'm like, your plan makes no sense.
No.
None whatsoever.
And I absolutely hate that scene, because I kept finding myself, when I was watching this movie, I kept on like sighing, like I kept on like going, like they're doing it, because this film is constantly falling on like typical movie tropes, and that scene did my head in, because they're trying to give you that sort of form of sympathizing with these bad people, when you're like, one, the film's not long enough to give a shit, and two, like,
No.
they just make them really bad people. You don't have to give everybody a consciousness. You don't have to give everybody a reason to do what they're doing. They're just bad. Just make them bad people. In the 90s, when we had bad guys, we just had bad guys, and they were horrible pieces of shit. And then now everybody has to have like a morality to them. And in this movie, you're like, you ain't got time to play with this morality, and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, I really didn't care for that, for the bad guys. And like you said, we need to go back to the 90s where we just have villains that are straight up villains. Granted, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's fine, but I don't think in this movie it needed it or even worked.
No.
Because like we don't have any sympathy for these villains whatsoever. And we're not really supposed to. So I don't really need to know any more of their motivations or anything. Like, they need to get drugs. That's it. Bottom line. Don't need to know anything else.
No, exactly. And what's all like incredibly frustrating is that there is no sense of like what's the word? There's no sense of like even the shark bits, like that's supposed to be exciting, you know, and nothing, everything falls flat in this movie. Like nothing is like crazy exciting. Like shit, she's got to go back in the water and she's got to go and get this stuff and the sharks and all that stuff. Like even when the sharks are around, like you never feel like anyone's in any form of impending danger in this movie, even though danger is all around them. Like even when they're playing on the whole aspect of like, oh, there's a storm coming and that. Like, when do you see the fucking storm? like, it just doesn't even happen.
No, we don't see shit. Like, and that's like some prime, like seaside, like fucking horror, like getting caught in a storm with the sharks in the water. Like, there's all sorts of things you could do with that. And I would have rather have seen more of that than Mrs. like No Face, like not acting. Trying to do something with these villains. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just don't understand what they were trying to do with this movie. And then, especially that trailer, though, like the whole cocaine shark thing. I'm like, even the cocaine shark movie, like that's actually titled Cocaine Shark, it's somehow better than this. I don't know how. And there's less sharks in it. So,
yeah, I know. And it's just like nothing happens in this movie. And also like
no.
like I was, as I said, when I was watching this, I was constantly finding more things, and I wasn't looking for them. That's what's insane. Like I wasn't looking for things in this movie to hate. It just kept on coming to me. And
yeah.
and then I was sitting there every single second. And when the film like opens, you've got like these pretty nice sort of like wide angle shots of the sea and stuff like that. But then it goes on, and you're like, this is just a tourism advert, like for the country that they're in. But funnily enough, they're supposed to be in the Caribbean, which is really nice, but then they're in Malta instead. So they're actually giving an advertising for fucking Malta and not even the Caribbean. So, which is mental.
Yeah.
But they, you know, you get these sort of nice shots when you start off with, but then you're like, this is going on for too long. And then every other shot is like a drone shot. And you're like, and I basically, what I felt like was that I was watching a film where somebody had got their first camera and their first drone of ever, and they were like, I'm going to make a movie. And they had like a little bit of money. Like they had enough money. Like it's probably somebody that's made some money somewhere. And then they were like, oh, I want to make a movie or something like that. But we don't really know. So we've got one camera with one lens for the whole movie. That, like I'm pretty sure they use like a zoom lens for every single shot, where they zoom in, zoom out, just the same shot, and that's it for every single thing. And then they've just got underwater cameras.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't even realize that, but thinking back to all the like the angles and all the shots, you're absolutely right. Everything is so flat and the same. It's the same thing throughout the entire movie. There's no mixture. Some of the underwater stuff was cool. Like it looked good. It was nice, but like in this movie, it doesn't really matter because there's not much else going on.
No.
I mean, the only cool parts are when you actually see the sharks attacking. And even then, it has so little bearing on everything else that's happening that we're supposed to be caring about that it ultimately doesn't matter. And then even when the shark bites into the cocaine, they're like, oh yeah, the shark bit into the cocaine, now it's high on cocaine. They just get out of the water and just wait.
Yeah, that like,
Which I'm like, okay, granted is the smart thing to do. And I know in any other movie, if they went back in the water, I'd be like, why'd you go back in the water with the cocaine shark? But like, I want to see people in the water with a cocaine shark. That's why I'm here. That's what brought me to this movie. And you don't deliver on it. You deliver on it for like 3 seconds and that's it.
I mean, I thought as soon as the shark was like taking cocaine, I thought like they would go back into water and there'd be like sharks fucking, like, and there would be like a fucking rave going on with sharks on these cocaine. That would
Yeah.
be more exciting than whatever happens in this movie. And also as well, like the blood in this movie is awful. So like every time they bite into someone that apparently they're killing, even though doesn't look great, the blood is just literally like a weird little mist that it just doesn't look right. Like they just focused on the shark and went, that's done. Don't worry about the surroundings. The sharks are good. And to be fair, there's the shot where the shark sort of jumps out the water and does like the death roll midair, and you're like, that's fucking cool, because you just want to see sharks do that shit in real life, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But and that looks okay, but that's about as exciting as the movie gets.
Yeah, this movie is lacking, like we said, literally in everything. The writing is terrible because the script is not original. Like they took an idea that's already been done and added absolutely nothing to it. They're like, oh, let's just hire somebody hot to be in here. And then we have a movie. Which, if this was like the 90s and we had like a bunch of hot people and they were getting naked, and then there was all this other bullshit, all right, maybe we have something on our hands here, something entertaining. But like there's no sleaziness, there's no entertainment. It almost feels like a soap opera on water.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah. And what's frustrating as well is that, because I mean, in my notes, I've literally got that like this is another missed opportunity, because like you said, like it's not an original idea, like the idea of this, but the idea of somebody, you know, essentially one facing their demons and everything that they went through in the past is an interesting character arc, which obviously she can't do because she can't act and can't move her face.
Yeah.
But also then you've got like the like the dread and the tension side that creates more of the horror environment by the fact that she has to go down and retrieve these drugs, but there's a shitload of sharks around them. Like that, once again, it becomes about like movies like this are missed opportunities, because you can create such like a thriller, like a horror thriller around this sort of character arc, this character story, the story of the movie, what it can do, and you can have these amazing set pieces. And also, like, if you're paying for a massive fucking tank in Malta to film your shots in, just go all out and do everything you can to make it exciting. You know, like make it so people remember it, because this is the type of film that I hope that I forget.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair too. And I don't think we talked about it yet. And I probably talked about poster expectations for this movie. I think I was doing that at the time. But there's especially one poster for this where there is like a giant shark behind this girl. And I was looking at it recently and I'm like, I almost feel like that shark was AI generated on this poster, because it just has that AI shark look to it. But it's also blatantly a lie, because like the sharks aren't that big of a threat in this
No.
movie, and they're certainly not that big either. Like this is more about, I think it's supposed to be more about her overcoming her issues, her daddy issues, more or less.
Yeah.
and then the sharks just kind of happen to be there. It's also kind of similar to one I just did a couple of weeks ago or last week. I don't know when this is coming out, but I talked about Something in the Water, which just came out, which was a very nice looking movie. It was acted fine, but the sharks were also just kind of not that important to the whole plot, more or less. It was more like Open Water or The Reef, where it's kind of people floating and then there's sharks around. So like it was interesting, it was okay, but I think I was more entertained by that than this though, because at least in that one the people could act.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah, that's always a bonus. I think that the way I always look at like movies like this is that you have to just go for it. Like and if anybody turns around and it's just like, oh yeah, but it's budgetary reasons, then don't make this fucking movie. Like, make something
Yeah.
else, because you need to decide whether you're going to make a character piece about someone's past trauma and how they're essentially fighting now, and because obviously when they make these movies, it's about overcoming that trauma, isn't it? And you, at no
Yeah.
point do you ever feel that she's ever gone through anything as that much that's supposed to help her overcome this trauma. And you know, like, she gets a little bit like a knock on her head, and then she gets up, and then she flies off, and then, well, she doesn't fly off, she swims away, but then she does that stupid fucking trick to get somebody like eaten by the one shark that's around, so then she can swim up to the top and hide. It's still in the water, mind you, so the shark can still get her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, when you have a story like this, it's about the character's redemption, so to speak. It's about the character trying to overcome that fear, and whether they do. And you never feel like that in this movie. Or you go the other way and go, we can make a movie with fucking sharks going absolutely mental. But they didn't. It's like, it's in between both of them, and then doesn't do it at all successfully.
Yeah, 100%. And you really nailed it on the head there with them dealing with their trauma. And now I'm starting to think back to Something in the Water, and now I'm starting to look at that movie more highly because they did the exact same thing, but way better, in my opinion. And I wouldn't go into that movie expecting a shark movie. It's just kind of a movie that takes place in the water, and there happens to be sharks. But then going back to what you were saying about, like, if you don't have the budget to do a certain thing, then don't do it. That's something I think Something in the Water did well, is because we don't see the shark a lot, but when we do see it, it's fine enough, and it's kind of like Jaws, where like you feel more of its presence than you actually see it,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
sort of works because it's played out more realistically. And this one is just, also the water was like super murky, which I also think helped play in their favor for creating these sharks too, because if they just make the water really murky, then they don't have to put as much detail into them. Some shots, like, they're super detailed. Like, I don't want to try and knock the CG too much because, I mean, one, VFX artists aren't paid enough and don't have enough time to actually do the work properly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't want to put too much hate on them. That's mostly for like the studios and whatnot. But yeah, no, I totally agree. If you don't have the budget to do something, then you just shouldn't do it. Unless that sort of plays into the type of movie you're making, then that's fine. Like, you know, we see a lot of B movies, sometimes like Velocipaster or something. Like, they don't have the budget to make these big things, but like that helps play into the movie. But for movies like this, it doesn't help play into it, and just kind of makes me hate it a little bit more.
Well, yeah, because like, when it comes to exploitation, or I said it right, I might have said it right. But when it comes to these types of movies, and not, but movies in general, that, like, and especially these types of movies, because obviously, you know, you take, I always almost take Jaws out of the equation when we talk about these movies, because Jaws is literally a perfect movie. Like, Jaws is just
Yeah.
a movie, you know, and it's just, it's perfect. I mean, it's been around for God knows how long, and everybody loves it. And it doesn't matter if you're a kid watching it for the first time; it becomes your favorite film you've ever seen. Like, it's so important to cinema and horror and everything, and shark movies. So I almost take it sort of out of the equation and trying to look at the other movies that you can sort of reference or trying to look at. But this film just doesn't know what it's trying to be. When you're in a genre, when you can go so many different sort of ways, or a subgenre that you can go so many different ways, because there are some movies that are so aware of what they're trying to be. So, like, Ghost Shark. I've seen Ghost Shark and it's shit, but it's good because it's shit.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
seen
exactly.
you know, like we've mentioned before, all the shark ones with Hulk Hogan's daughter, that she's in contract
Yeah.
to only star in movies with sharks. But we've
Yeah.
spoken about that, and even those movies are fun because they're shit, but they're fully aware of what they're trying to make. I've even seen Sand Sharks, and that was, I think she might be in that actually, but that's shit. But
She
it's
is,
good
yeah.
because, once again, these movies are more and more aware of of what they are, and they're just trying to give you a good time. And sometimes they don't nail it, and you're like, no, this is like shit, or it's too far. But sometimes they get it right. But they're just fun. And this film doesn't know what it wants to be. It's never fun because they don't give it the opportunity to, and it's boring because literally feels like nothing happens in an hour and a half runtime, even though things in it are happening. But you're like, I don't feel like I'm watching anything that's exciting or happening, and I'm watching a movie with bad characters that have acted awfully. And I'm watching a film filmed in Malta where it's supposed to be in the Caribbean, even though they don't show anything that could be like as fun as the Caribbean. Like, I don't even know if there's any beaches. They show the sea, but I don't even think there's any like proper Caribbean beaches.
No, there's nothing like that. So like where this movie takes place seems completely inconsequential. Like they could have just set this movie where it was filmed, because I feel like that has no bearing on it. Yeah, so like just have it take place in Malta. Like I don't understand why we needed to do that, because it doesn't, the story doesn't rely on it as far as I can tell.
No, I think it's because it's their excuse to try and get a lot of English people, because that's more feasible, because obviously there's a lot of English people in the Caribbean and so on, that
Gotcha.
I think that they're trying to go down that side rather than it being like Malta and you know, a lot of people from that country, and then it might feel a little bit off to have a shitload of English people in them. But then they could have just not got English people, and it wouldn't be so fucking annoying, because we're so fucking annoying.
Yeah. But we also don't even really see people on the land that much.
No.
Like we see like her boyfriend and his helper dude, I like whoever he is. And then like we see the police station and whatnot. But again, we could have just done that in Malta. Like there's like there's just no reason for doing any of this. Like, I mean, unless like that's just what the script called for, and so they just did it. But I'm just like, guys, you could have just been like, oh, let's just change it. Like it's a simple thing.
I just feel that this, as I said, like I feel like this film is like an experiment. I feel like this is like an experiment for where they were like, I want to make a movie, let's make a movie, but not necessarily understand how to make a movie in regards to, it's all right having the money to do things, but it's about understanding how to do the things to make a movie. Like, for example, the technical aspect, and knowing that you probably need more than drone shots and you need more than one lens to make a movie. But also like it's understanding how to have the idea of the story that they're putting in this movie that they've probably stolen from a million other movies, but it's how to depict that story on the screen and put that to screen through script, through emotion, through performance. But they don't do any of that either. Like I honestly, last night when I was watching it, and I watched it pretty late, and I was sitting there for way too long, because I was like, I want to try, I need to try and find, because I'm like that. Well, no matter what movie I watch, I have to try and find positives, because I don't want to just shit on movies. I mean, recently I did an episode, I don't know when it's going to be out, but I did an episode about The Omen. And that was difficult for me to navigate, because I think The Omen's a fantastic movie. I love The Omen. It's a classic. But I don't necessarily think it's as good as anything else really that came out in the 70s that is up there with the iconography of that era as well. So like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Dawn of the Dead, like all those sort of movies, I will take them every single day over The Omen. But I still love The Omen, and I could find so many positives within that movie that it was difficult to navigate the episode, because I don't want it to sound like I'm just shitting on a movie, because that's what people always go towards. People will always go, as soon as you say one thing about a movie, people think, well, that's it, you think it's shit. And with that movie, it's not. I think The Omen's fantastic. There's just things about it that I might not like as much as other things. But with this movie, I was in the same boat, where I was like, I need to try and find reason for the positives, and I couldn't find a single fucking one. Like,
I mean, I will say some of the underwater stuff, especially towards the beginning, was really nice looking. The way they portray sharks for the most part, except for when they get to the drugs, and I guess they're just trying to blame that on the cocaine. is fairly realistic for the most part, so I'll kind of give them that, I guess. But yeah, I've been trying to do that, especially with this series with Seasick Cinema, because it is designed to kind of shit on movies. But I do try to find positives, and I've found doing these episodes too, just talking to people, they'll like say something positive about it that I didn't realize. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that there is something about that movie that we can say is good. Um, I mean, this one has some eye candy, if but like
Yeah, but too much.
I don't
Like,
need it for an hour and a half.
it's an hour and a half movie, and there's like 4 or 5 shots of her half naked in bed, and you're like, okay, well that's why she's
Yeah,
there, and that's it. You know, she can't act. She's just there to be, as you say, the eye candy, and that's one of the other things that I really don't like about movies, because that does my head in, because I'm one of those people, like, I like to be fully immersed into a movie, no matter what type. Like I said, like, I get immersed into movies like Ghost Shark and Sand Shark because, like I said, they know what they are. So I'm along for the journey. I'm along for the ride. I'm along in the joke. You know, I'm part. You know,
yeah,
I know what they're going for. And this movie, like, every time, you know, you've got a drone shot, I'm like, well, that takes me out because you don't fucking need it. Every time they're doing this, I'm like, you don't
yeah,
need that. And then every time we cut to her half naked, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, we know why you're doing this. You
yeah.
think this is what people want to see, and it might be, but for me, I'm like, you've taken me out the movie because you're just shoving it in there for that aspect, because you're like, fuck it, just put her half naked in the bed sweating a little bit because she's had a little bit of a night terror.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, with the amount of money they had to have paid her, because she is a supermodel, so it's not like she was probably paid a B actress salary. Like, she had to have been paid somewhat decently. They could have gotten somebody who's inexperienced and done probably a better job, and I would have bought into this movie at least a little bit more. And maybe they could have used that money to, I don't know, do something else, maybe work the script a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, when I the more I watch like movies, because we're getting so many movies now, obviously, you know, because the cinema's constantly trying to make money, and it has to, because it's a dying industry, and that sucks. Well, especially the cinema, you know, cinema chains and so on, and you know, money. Cinema doesn't make the money that it did. Obviously, everything, as we know, is pretty much on streaming. But what's really interesting to me is that we keep on getting so much stuff come out, and it's shit after shit after shit, and every now and again we get a good one, but but because there's so much, we're just like, our brains are infiltrated with just crap movies. But what makes me laugh is, and I don't know if any of your listeners and yourself, you will probably know this, but there's a channel on YouTube, and it's called Alter, and Alter is one of the best things. Like, I've been watching it. I think they recently had like 5-year anniversary, so I've been watching it since it basically came on YouTube. And what it is that they're dedicated to creating short horror movies. And basically, they have they, you know, give a little bit of money to people who have these really good ideas, but they are high end movies. Like, when you're watching them, you're like, these are made by people who fully understand story. They understand uniqueness and unpredictability, but also they understand like filmmaking on a technical aspect. Like, I honestly say to anyone, like, you can literally sit there for a week and binge Alter videos on there, and they're and you can just, you find so much. Some of them are like proper dark horrors, sometimes they're horror comedies. It's like a big advert. No one's getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid for this for Alter. Like, they're not a sponsor. But the reason I mention them is because people that are making short movies for very little money, and the talent that goes into making these movies, and the performances, like, everyone is going for it in these things. And these are just short movies put on YouTube. But yet we have so many movies, full length feature films put out there that are just shit, that have nothing to them, like this, that have nothing to them, that have people who don't understand the technical aspect of filmmaking, or don't understand character and building, you know, this world that people, you know, you want to be taken on a journey when you watch a movie. That's why, so, you know, Steven Spielberg movies are so good, because Jurassic Park and everything, you know, you're taking on a journey. And
Yeah.
whether that's a good journey that you want to be on, or whether it's a sad journey that you don't want to be on, but you need to see where the fuck it ends, Like, that's what movies are. And when you get movies like this, you're like, why the fuck was that? And that's how I feel about this thing. And I get it, because it's just like, people want to make a movie, and that is incredible. And the fact that they made this movie, it is amazing, like I said, and we always say that. But the fact that, as I said, a YouTube channel can consistently keep bringing out some of the best horror short films you'll ever see, and yet we still continuously get feature film horrors that are awful. It goes to sort of, for me, it goes to show the state of feature film cinema.
Yeah.
It's a long rant about shit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I know. I haven't heard of that YouTube channel. I'm friends with somebody who's a cinematographer. We went to film school together, and he's part of a YouTube channel called Oddly Dark, which I have posted on my website. They make a lot of short horror films. They're based out of Toronto. So shout out to Benji. Again, I shout him out all the time, but yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it when people get together and just make shorts like that. And you're absolutely right. Like, a lot of the times they are so much better than a lot of these feature length. I don't know if I talked about it with you or somebody else, but Imaginary from Blumhouse. Have you seen that?
No, I mean, that just looks like a kids movie coated to be a horror, but it's not.
Basically, no, that's basically it. Yeah, it takes a left turn at one point, and I'm like, why are we here? What did we just do? And I'm like, listen, I appreciate Blumhouse for putting out horror and like putting it out to the mainstream, so that way people are talking about it and thinking about it. Because I do think it helps maybe lead people down like a rabbit hole, like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
yeah.
what other horrors do I like? And like, then they started looking at the older movies, and that's how they're introduced to like Friday the 13th and Freddy and all that. But they also put out so much fucking shit,
Yeah.
man. Like, Fantasy Island, garbage. Night Swim is a terrible movie, but it's also one of those ones that it's so bad that I can't help but enjoy it,
Yeah,
because it is
yeah, yeah,
just complete nonsense. Have you
yeah.
seen it?
I haven't, no, but I want to see it, because I know I think that's the one with Kurt Russell's son in it, isn't it? I think so. I want to see it,
Yeah.
because Wyatt Russell, yeah, because I mean, I'm a big Kurt Russell fan, and I think his son's a really good actor as well. So I didn't know anything about the movie apart from the fact that he was in it, and it's to do with a haunted ghost pool or whatever it is, and I was like, okay, well, I'm in that, but. Then I started hearing all the negative shit about it, and I was like, well, I'll catch it at some point, make my own mind up, but it is still like one that I want to see. It's on the list, but when I get around to it, I don't fucking know. But yeah, you're right. You know, it's just the problem with Blumhouse. They're in their Hollywood era because they've made a shitload of money, and this is what I mean. This is what Hollywood does. You know, they had such an incredible and an interesting and an intelligent business model when they first started, because they were only giving any film they made a certain amount of money. And I think it was something like 5 million, something
Yeah.
like that. And they were like, this is what you're getting. But when you do that and you give that money to the right people, it pushes them and helps them, forces them to create something. You know, they're not given the world at their feet. They're not given 50 million, 100 million. They're forced to create something and use independent filmmaking and the tools that are at hand to do that. It forces their hand to do that, and that's when you then start getting these movies that are out, and you're like, fuck, like how amazing is that? I mean, you look at like, I mean, I'm a massive Ty West fan. I think Ty West is like the modern
Yeah.
day master of horror. But you look at how small and how low budget his like movies are, but then you look at them and then you're like, these films, like especially something like Innkeepers and stuff, like, I mean, House of the Devil is my favorite, and what he did on a technical aspect of that is incredible. But like when you start looking at Innkeepers, like that looks like a step up in regards to like a budget, because the way that he chose to film that and the sound design in that film is phenomenal. But when you have someone like Ty West, because he understands, he reminds me of Spielberg in a way, because he understands every aspect of filmmaking. Like, he's a student of film, so he understands every single aspect of technical filmmaking. So then he can go, okay, well, let's do it like this, and let's do it like this, or this is what the film needs to be like this. And that's why I love watching his movies, because not only do I enjoy watching them because they're great films, And not everyone will agree, but it's fine because, that's just the way that it is. But I love his movies on a movie point, but I love watching them because, like when I'm watching, say, like Jaws and Spielberg or John Carpenter movies, I'm in awe because of what they managed to achieve on a technical aspect. And then that's what frustrates you when you get movies like this, because there is no aspect of any of that whatsoever. But then, like I said, with Blumhouse, they've lost that now. Like that's it. Now they're just making kid horror movies, and then every now and then they come out with a horror movie that's for adults. But then they're not really any good because now they're putting bigger budgets into them, and it's not really forcing the hand for that creativity now. And horror is all about creativity. And that's what you need. It's all about unpredictability and creativity. And if you can nail them, then you've got a good movie. If you don't, well, then you're making the same shit that's out constantly, which is where horror is at the moment. Apart from when you get like little companies like Neon, I think it's Neon, that are making films like Long Legs and shit like that.
Right, yeah.
About that, which is what I keep thinking that's going to be a film about that bit in Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Danny DeVito with really long legs. That's what I keep thinking that film should be about, which I would love. I
Oh my
made like a
god.
little poster for that as well. If anyone wants to see that, that's on my Instagram. And I was like, what a movie that would be. But yeah, like there's, you get some of the smaller distributors still doing that, and I think they're trying to follow that Blumhouse method now, where they're like, let's give people who understand film on a technical level and know how to make movies and want to make movies a small amount of money and see what they can do, because then they don't lose anything. And if it's a massive hit, then they've won.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm pretty sure Blumhouse put out the new Strangers movie, right? The Strangers Chapter
Another
1.
film that apparently is shit.
Yeah, I've seen it. It has one of the dumbest mid-credit scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I was blown away by how stupid it was.
Yeah.
And then I was even blown away because I realized it was directed by Rennie Harlin, who directed Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, which is mad. And that is a great example of a shark movie, because that film knows exactly what it's trying to be. It is just trying to be a full-on 90s action movie, balls to the wall fucking action, and then you got like an absolute like what the fuck moment with Samuel L. Jackson that nobody ever forgets, because I remember watching it for the first time. I was like, fuck, like they killed Samuel L. Jackson and like that, and it was amazing. Deep Blue Sea is another prime example where like you're like, okay, this is a film, because obviously people are always trying to compare stuff all the time, and they always like Jaws and Deep Blue Sea and which one's better and stuff. And like, it doesn't matter which one's better; they're completely fucking different. Just appreciate them because because the films that they know exactly the films they're trying to be, and that's what I love, and that's what this film Deep Fear doesn't do. When you get films like as shit as Ghost Shark, that or Sand Sharks and all this sort of movies, at least they know what they're trying to be. And this film should have decided as to what the fuck it wanted to be, but it couldn't.
Yeah, it felt like at times it was gonna start turning into like a softcore erotic thriller.
Yeah.
Oh, and then going back to the drone shots, I just remembered there was one really dumb transition. It's when the boyfriend's looking at the computer because he's following her on GPS, tracking her every movement. And he's looking at the computer, and then he's looking at the boat, and the camera zooms in to the computer, and then we transition to a fucking drone shot.
Yeah.
Going to the boat, it just transitions. I'm like, this is so stupid. I'm like, why did we need this? Like, we don't.
I'm sure you probably noticed, but I just wanted to say quickly before I forget, because I will forget. They tried doing the Jaws scare jump scare that they absolutely fucked up. Obviously the scare scene in Jaws that it gets everyone, which is the head coming out of the boat, and then everybody gets scared by it because you constantly always think, oh, it's happening now. But it's always like a millisecond off when you think it is. And every time you watch Jaws, even though you could have seen it like a million times, you're like, oh, fuck, it got me again. But like, when you're watching this, they tried doing it, but they edited it so badly that it was like a cut. So like she goes down to the boat and then there's the body there, but the body literally, like they go down, the body turns up and then it cuts to her face and then cuts away. And then you're like, oh, that, and I remember sitting there, I was like, they tried it. They actually tried it and they fucked it up so much. It was awful. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off because I was like, I have to get that out. Otherwise I'll forget.
Oh yeah, no, that was so stupid. And the editing in this movie is terrible too. And it makes sense that when you say it's not like somebody who really knows what they're doing. So this is the director's first movie since 2005, which was a movie called The Marksman starring Wesley Snipes, which I've never seen. I'm going to assume that was a straight to video movie, and that kind of seems like that might be this director's.
That's him trying to get out of prison, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I feel like that's this director's wheelhouse, is like straight to video, straight to streaming. Like, I don't think theatrical is his forte. Definitely not after this outing.
No, I mean, I was hoping that you were going to say, when you said that he had made other movies, because I hadn't looked it up because I would just get too pissed off. But when you said, "Oh, it's his like first movie," I was like, "Yeah." I was literally going to say, "Yeah, you can tell that. That's fine. He's got something to learn from." But the fact that he should have already been learning and made this movie. You know, filmmaking is a constant learning process. Everybody knows that. Like, you're learning on every single thing to do, and you constantly fail, and then you learn from those failures, and then when you've learned from those failures, you fuck up again. That's just what filmmaking is, and you learn and learn and learn, and it sucks, but also you take so much joy from learning, because there's so many things that you end up being so proud of when you do it. But you've made movies and then your learning process is still making a movie like this where you haven't learned anything, then you've only got your fucking self to blame.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like he wasn't working. Like, he was directing like TV and like other things and like doing other stuff. So like he was still working. So it's not like he made a movie in 2005 and then just stopped doing anything related to film or television. He was still working. So like, yeah, he really has no excuse. I don't know like what studio did this either, but like, or if it was like a Netflix original or if they just picked it up or something. But the marketing, this shouldn't be marketed as a shark movie because
No.
they're so inconsequential to everything else. Like, even like her fear, she doesn't even really have.
Well, she can't move
The
her face to
deep
show
fear
it.
doesn't even make any fucking sense. No, she can't move her face to show it, but like, she's not afraid of the water. She's not afraid of diving down, even though she had that accident when she was a kid or whatever. Like, she doesn't have that fear. Like, she's been doing it. It's like her job. So like, the title makes no fucking sense either.
No, well, she's just a little bit upset because her dad died. But like, it's not as if her dad can keep coming back. Like, he can't just come back from the water. Like, so it just like, yes, you're gonna get like childhood trauma, and you're gonna have that trauma for the rest of your life, um, knowing that your dad died and stuff like that. But just don't make your job going into the fucking water. So yeah, it doesn't it doesn't
Yeah,
make any fucking sense.
seriously.
But I have just figured out why this director made this movie, because it means he got a nice holiday to Malta, and that is why.
Yeah, that could absolutely be it. I mean, really, it's just like, yeah, I'll just do this movie. Oh, Malta, sure, fuck yeah. Oh, we have to do some filming. Yeah, just put her in a bikini there for a bit, and I'm gonna have a Mai Tai. See ya.
Exactly. Like, they were just like, we're looking for a director, and he's just like, oh, I don't know, like, I'm pretty busy, like, I'm trying to make movies with Wesley Snipes or whatever, but he's in prison at the moment, probably, dodging his tax evasion. And then they're like, oh, well, it's going to film in Malta, and he's like, oh yeah, when do we leave? Like, yeah, that's fine. Well, when do we leave? I'll get a nice holiday in Malta. I'll pay some YouTube kids to get some drone shots, and I'll pay some like divers to get some footage under the water, and then he just film little bits that he needs to.
Yeah, and then brought a supermodel along with him. Like, he's literally living the fucking dream. Like,
That's probably his
yeah,
wife.
yeah, yeah.
He Botoxed her up.
Oh, yeah. Like, she's not an actor. Like, she should just stick to modeling. Like, acting is just not in her, or maybe not this kind. Like, maybe soap operas I could see. Maybe she'd do well there.
Well, there was one scene that he was actually not too bad in, and that is literally the scene in the bar. Near the start, when she's in the bar, because I feel like she actually wasn't too bad at that, unless she was absolutely like hammered on set, and that's how they got her to move her face. I don't know, but
Yeah.
she was, but but she wasn't too bad because there was like a little bit of like charisma within that scene. And I don't know whether it's because maybe this sort of film doesn't suit what she can do as an actor. Because you know, there's range, and some people are lucky, you know, when it comes to acting because they can do anything. And there are some people that don't have range, and I don't know if her range is drama or depicting any form of trauma and all that sort of stuff. But maybe her range is sitting in a bar talking shit with someone, you know, and or maybe something that's fun, you know, like maybe a comedy, maybe something like that. I don't know, because it's difficult. As I said, like I don't like, as much as it's fun shitting on movies, I don't necessarily like it too much, because when they're this bad, you sort of feel quite bad. Like I know that I do, because this film, as I said, like I can't find anything to save it. I honestly cannot. And I hope that I never watch it again in my life. But you still want to try and find little things in it, so you're like, look, well done. But there is no well fucking done in this. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, like this is like a never watch again. Like I can't see myself putting this on for any reason unless I want to make somebody else watch it.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
there's like there's just no reason to ever watch this again, or like I wouldn't even recommend this to anybody for anything.
I'll just say go and watch
I can
Ghost
see
Shark.
some people like it. Yeah, like I can see some people liking this, but it's definitely not for me. I would not say this is for horror fans at all, or even like fans of like creature features, nothing like that. It's the advertising is like 100% false. And I think a lot of other people share kind of how we feel. So I'm going to dive into some Letterboxd reviews here. So first up, we have one from Clara. How is it possible to make a movie with a shark on cocaine this boring? Half star.
That's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren Ellis says, not enough cocaine consumed, not enough shark attacks. Disappointing. 1 star. And yep, again, not enough shark attacks for sure. They're so inconsequential to everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Just like these drug dealers' backstory. Don't care. Don't care about your problems. You're still assholes. Like, don't care.
you need to be on cocaine to enjoy this movie. It's not about what the sharks are taking. It's about what you need to take to enjoy this movie.
I feel like even on cocaine, you would just get mad at this movie because nothing's happening. Like you would just be bored and you'd probably smash your TV. I would imagine.
Exactly. Yeah, you like break the emergency hammer box that you've got somewhere.
Yeah. Break in case of shitty movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then you wake up in just a pile of sick and sweat everywhere, and you're like, oh, it happened again.
Yeah. And then the last one is from Jacob. Hey, how about we stop making shark movies, please and thanks? And to that, I say, fuck you, Jacob, because this is my business. So,
if Jacob, if you're listening to this, fuck you. Don't stop making shark movies. Just stop making shit ones. Or even if they're shit, make them fun.
Exactly. That's what I'm all about too. So like we were talking about how this not being a super original storyline, I don't have a problem with movies doing that. Just make it good, make it interesting, or take it and make it really fucking weird. Like,
Yeah.
And especially if you're going to remake a movie, like let's get fucking weird with it. That's why I like the Child's Play remake, because I'm like, this is just totally bizarre and weird. And it's got Mark Hamill being a violent doll. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do this. I'm like, is it the original Chucky? No, it's not, but it's still fun.
Way to look at it. Imagine if someone like Steven Kostanski, the guy that made Psycho Gorman and The Void, imagine if he made a shark movie. That would be fucking mental. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see, because that would be amazing. The one that I'm looking forward to is, I think the director of is an Australian zombie movie, Wormwood. He's doing a shark movie with practical effects.
So, as in real sharks or practical effects sharks? So they're like
practical effect sharks.
Well, I mean, they're going to have a bit of a budget for it, but that'd be interesting as long as they use that budget right.
And it's a World War II movie. It's about like soldiers basically trapped on a raft, fighting a shark. And I am like,
cool.
Fuck yes. And you could, like, if you get a big enough budget for that movie, you can spend all of your money on that practical shark, because if you just have soldiers out on a raft in the middle of the water, that's your only set piece, and then you just have your shark basically. Like that's the way to do it if you're going to do it.
Thing about that is that there are some fantastic Australian filmmakers. So, and they seem to be
Yeah.
like, they are like filmmakers that, like, once again, I come down to like the technical aspect. They understand the technical aspect. So it's interesting when you get Australian horrors and so on, because they know what they're doing, and there's a lot of really talented Australian filmmakers. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely look out for that one. That'd be pretty cool, especially as soon as you hear practical effects as well. Then you're like, good.
Yeah, like even if the movie turns out to be complete garbage, I will always like give it props for using practical effects because that is fucking awesome. And that's not really something we see very often anymore. Like I think in Under Paris we had like a couple of practical like baby sharks and like but that was it. In other recent movies I really can't think of anything. At least like from big budget movies. Low budget movies we get like a doll sometimes, but other than
Yeah,
that.
that's it. That's it. I always say, and always want them to bring back practical effects, but funding and paying for the warehouses and shit like that you have to spend months making stuff. Like, I get it. Hollywood. We know why you're not. Is it easier to create CGI sharks than going to pay shitloads of people to go and film it? Yeah, I get it. We get it. That's why it happens. But we're never going to
Yeah.
get that feeling that we get when we know that something we're watching is real. Like, is a film like, I've mentioned it already, but The Void, is a film like that going to be what it is if it was just all CGI? No, the fact that you sit there and you're watching craftsmanship at the highest quality, that is an extra level to the movies. That's what Hollywood doesn't understand. It all becomes about us going to enjoy movies in different aspects and levels. Not just like we go into a movie and go, that was all right, or oh, that was a good movie. We come out of it and go, wow, like those practical effects that they did, like when they did this and chop somebody's head off, like in Jason, like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. Once again, it
Yeah.
becomes about the creativity and the individuality and like the unpredictability, as I said, of like you never knew what you were going to get, especially in like Freddy Krueger movies and Jason movies, and this is what horror was built around. And then now, like everything is pretty much CGI, and we don't get to take away from those movies the different elements. We just now go, okay, that was a good movie. Even if the movie's fantastic, we're like, oh, this is what a great movie. But then it just becomes about the movie. It doesn't become about the extras that are on top. Like when we talk about iconic movies like Jaws, there's so much that went into making that movie that's part of it. That's part of the history of it. There's not many movies now that I feel like, even as good as they might be, I don't feel like there's going to be that much history to them because there's nothing behind of making them. There's nothing going into them because anytime there might be blood effects, it's CGI, or somebody's head comes off, it's CGI. It's not real. People aren't really making them. And then it doesn't add that extra layer to them, which is what I love. I love the layers. I love filmmaking. We don't really get that much in the layers, unless you're someone like Ty West or Jordan Peele and people like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like we could get better effects with CG. And then again, it always comes back to like not giving them enough time, not getting paid enough. And like we could have so much better content. And like it's so simple. Like just pay them what they're deserved and give them the time to finish it properly. And we can have something incredible.
Yeah,
But instead, like I guess most of it's just going to streaming anyway, so it's just going to be on a small TV screen, so they don't really care that much. But I'm like, there's still like people like us out there that still want to see that effort put into it, and that's why I like it when I see a movie like Infested that was on Shudder, the spider movie. Like the effects in that movie were fucking top notch. Like I felt like they were there. So like when you put that much effort and work into it and it like makes me feel all like creepy crawly, that shit I appreciate.
yeah,
This movie does not make me feel like the sharks are dangerous. It doesn't make me feel like I'm in any danger while I'm in there. Like
no,
I'm just like, yep, there they are. and like they never go after the main character more or less. Like,
No, I literally feel like in this movie, if I saw a shark, I could just go hold on to its fin and have a nice swim with it, and just go around and see and exploring the sea, and then get off when I want and go see you later.
yeah, 100%. Like, I really, really wish they had just played on the cocaine shark aspect of it. Like, make the reason these sharks are violent is because they're all hopped up on coke and they just won't leave or whatever. Make it like a cocaine bear movie, but like make it fun. Like they had all the elements there to do it, and they just were like, no.
I mean, this is literally the movie that it should have been. So you have a woman who hopefully can move her face. You get someone else, ideally, she can move her
Yeah.
face, right? You have this lady, she goes out to sea, she's going out, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't have to worry about the storm, you don't have to worry about the trauma, you don't have to worry about anything, right? But then the film becomes about, you can have the aspect where these people have got drugs and they're trying to trick her and all that sort of stuff. But now the drugs are underneath. But then it doesn't even have to necessarily be about that they have to retrieve the drugs for this reason or that reason. The reason can just that literally the film can be about the fact that these sharks have now eaten a shitload of cocaine and there's loads of them. But they could have something within that, like where the sharks are or anything like that, that they need to survive. They have to find a way to survive, and what they need is within this shark stuff and everything like that. And that creates just an exciting movie, because you're like, okay, these sharks, and there's loads of them. There could be like 4 or 5 of them or more. All these sharks are absolutely off their face on cocaine, and that's the movie. But we don't get any of that. I mean, it feels like there's like one shark about, and even that one's just they're like, I'm just going to leave you to get on with it. But if you piss me off, I might bite you a little bit.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure like there might be 1 or 2 sharks at most, and they're just always in this area. And it's such a wasted plot. It's such a wasted movie. It's a waste of like a beautiful location.
Yeah,
So much of it is just wasted. Like
yeah,
the poster art wasted because like
it's
they should
photoshopped
have
to
done
fuck.
something
Yeah,
completely different for that. Oh yeah, it's photoshopped to fuck, and like it's not an accurate representation of what's in the movie whatsoever.
yeah.
Which just really pisses me off when they do that for movies. Like they're using the shark as a marketing technique, but like that's not really what the movie is about.
No, it's about don't get Botox because you can't move your face.
Yeah, that's what I got out of it. Like if there's any other messages here, like I'm not getting it.
Basically what we've done is watch this movie so other people don't have to. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you would recommend this movie to anybody. I don't recommend it to anybody. I don't even remember what I rated this the first time I watched it. I think I was probably too generous, and maybe that was because I watched a lot of like really other shitty movies beforehand. But whatever I rated it is probably too high. Like I can only give this, I'll give them like 1 star because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
again they made a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where I would be at. I would give this 1 star because one, yeah, they made a movie which is fantastic, but also it has that one cool moment where you're getting like a shark be a fucking shark and jumping out the water and eating someone. If I get to see a whole movie of sharks jumping out the fucking water, like 10 feet out the air to eat someone, then I'm happy. That's what I want from my shark movie if they're going to be like this. We've done Jaws. Jaws is done. Let's move on from it. Let's stop trying to make Jaws. Let's just try and make shark movies fun, but they still can't fucking do it. So yeah, I would give this one just purely because a shark jumps out the water and they made a movie. And that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing else I can really give compliments to this movie for. Like I'm struggling. Like,
Yeah. There's nothing.
beautiful location, hot supermodel, but can't act, can't move her face.
Yeah.
That's really all you need to know about this movie. There's really not much else to it.
No, if you want to watch a movie for an hour and a half that you're going to want to sleep the whole way through, but won't because you hope that something happens, then this is the movie for you. If you don't If you want to watch a better movie, then don't watch this one.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you're looking for like a scary shark movie or an entertaining shark movie, this is not it. If you're looking for a horror movie, this is not it. Um, there's also another movie called Deep Fear from 2022 that's like a French movie, which is also terrible. So I would also say don't name your movie Deep Fear because from what I've seen, it's just fucking awful. So just stay away from that title.
They never really tackle the true deep fear of everything, of existence. They just tackle
Yeah.
a shark
Yeah.
and a little bit of water. Although, to be fair, some people are scared of water and some people say they're scared of sharks. But it's not the deepest of fears. Like you talked about Infested. I haven't watched that one because I'm too scared of spiders. So I'm not watching that one.
Yeah. And I would say even if you have a fear of sharks and like a fear of like deep water or whatever, I don't know. I just don't see this movie playing into those fears that well. I think once you like get into it after a little bit, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, no, this is kind of just stupid.
Well,
But again, there's probably a few people out there that might love this, but generally speaking, no, I would say so.
Realize that this film does the absolute opposite. It makes people want to get into the water because it looks so nice.
Yeah, that's true.
It's had the adverse effect. It's so not a horror movie that it's made the water nice. It's made sharks like I want to swim with sharks, not dolphins. This film makes me want to swim with sharks and go into the sea and have a nice little swim. It doesn't do anything in regards to a horror.
Oh, yeah, not at all. Like, not in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like that's kind of where the marketing was sort of headed to, like, between maybe some comedy with the cocaine shark, but, like, mostly horror. And then even with the title, like, Deep Fear, that's kind of where I'm headed. But, like, nothing is delivered on that. Actually, one positive thing I will say, I did like it when the female villain got shot with the flare gun at the end of the movie, and then we just see her sinking in the water with the flare gun going out of her chest. I'm like, that was entertaining. I'm like, it's stupid, but I'm like, it was entertaining.
So the annoying thing is that I wanted to enjoy that, but I was too busy being pissed off because they gave us two double shit endings. The film ended really shit, and then they came back with her coming back. And then they gave us another shit ending. So I was too busy. I was double pissed off. I was too busy pissed off by the fact that they didn't end it and I couldn't go to bed. And then I was pissed off again that they gave us an extra shit ending.
Yeah, both of these endings are fucking garbage. And again, like we didn't need that like fake out ending at all. And it happened, I feel like they waited too long. Like it should have happened like a little bit sooner to just get it over with. But yeah, way too long. And also, this guy didn't want to wait for the airplane to go look for the boat, but the airplane got there like really not that long after.
Oh
he got there by boat. Like I feel like he could have waited. Like it's kind of like the whole Home Alone situation where they all end up at home at the same time, where she should have just taken the fucking flight.
Yeah, it's like she properly mugged herself over. But you're right. Like it doesn't make any sense. And like I said, like the guy is so fucking angry all the time that even in the end scene where he's like, oh, is that a proposal? And then she's all like, oh, probably like as close to. And he's so fucking angry, like in his face, that he can't depict any form of like, oh, this is the best news I've ever fucking heard. I'm in love with this woman, irrelevant of whether her face moves or not. I'm in love with her. And we're going to spend the rest of our lives together and be happy. And he's just got that typical Orlando Bloom face where he's like, oh, I've forgotten how to act in every scene that I'm in.
Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah, like there's nothing going on whenever he's talking. Like, and like you said, he looks angry all the time, even when he's not. When he's not supposed to be angry, he still looks like he's pissed off. And I'm like, oh my God, why am I angry?
Constantly getting worried about getting a parking ticket. That's what it is.
Yeah. He's like, oh, did I feed the meter? Fuck, I can't remember. That's just what it is. He's just constantly worried about it.
I fucking love you. Also got the English accent I fucking hate as well. He's got like a proper tough English accent where he's just like, oh, I'm English and I talk like this, like I'm from a proper school. And oh no, she's out there all alone. And even that was a little bit too Jason Statham to what he was like. But he was just, yeah, they're the ones that went to private school and all that. The typical English people that I don't like, and I'm English.
I can see that. I can see him going to a private school. Like
Yeah.
that makes total sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my final thoughts: don't watch this movie for any reason.
Yeah. Basically.
Stay away from it.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about what your channel is, where we can find you, and what you're all about?
So Let's Talk Horror is literally a channel. I call it a channel because I do pretty much everything. Like Steve, Captain Steve, as I called him on my show. I just called you loads of things on my show. I couldn't make my mind up. But basically, I do this like Steve. I do it all on my own as well. We know how difficult that is, but you literally, I just bring out all horror related content. I have a podcast that is available on video format on our YouTube channel, but I also have those episodes available in audio. So you can choose. Basically, you can do what you bloody want. You can choose to watch it on video, or you can choose to listen to it on audio, whichever one tickles your fancy. And basically, you can go and enjoy that. We're on every social media platform because obviously you have to bloody be. And then we also have I run a Saturday morning show as well. So every single Saturday morning, if you're in the UK, that is, and then it is uploaded to YouTube anyway. But I'm doing every single Saturday, 9 a.m. till 9:30 a.m. I do it's a show called Horrible Morning. Incredibly original, but it's called Horrible Morning, which is where I talk about the week's horror news, or what I think is the most interesting of the week's horror news. And then basically I do it so nobody else has to worry and burden themselves with trying to figure out what the news is for the week. They can just come and watch me live, talk about it. And then also on there for half an hour, we can just talk about horror. So I'm enjoying doing that. I love doing the podcast. Yourself, obviously, you came on an episode. I don't know if it's going to be out by the time this is out. But it may be. We spoke all about Psycho Gorman, which is a great movie.
Yes.
And it is obviously a great avenue on the show, because what I always try and do, very much like this, it's all about having very honest conversation, very passionate conversations about what we love. Like, we love movies, we love horror, we love different types of movies. You love shark movies, like we all love them. We have a lot of passion. We have a lot to talk about. But it all genuinely comes from honesty. So no matter how much, we've been very honest about how shit this movie is, because it is. But there's a lot to talk about with these movies, and that's what I try and do with Let's Talk Horror. So as I said, we are everywhere, and the podcast, if you want someone else to go and listen to, and you don't mind a really fucking annoying English person, then you can go and listen or watch what I do.
Yeah, I really love your show. I've been watching your YouTube lately, and people will also may or may not know, BP also stands for Brett Parker, who is also the name of the podcaster from Dissect That Film that I've been on a couple times, and Brett's been on your channel. You guys talked about The Shining, I think.
Yeah. I didn't even realize I didn't wear this on purpose. But yeah, it's fucking weird. Like we spoke about it before, and it's still mental. And he will be coming back on the show again soon as well. But it's just weird. I have to stop myself from calling him Brett Parker every single time. But I also can't call him Brett. It feels weird because I obviously it's like talking to myself. It's strange. So it's just weird.
Yeah.
It's weird trying to talk to somebody that has the same name as you, because I don't know what to call him. But also, it's weird that the fact that somewhere in the world there is another Brett Parker that does podcasting. It still blows my mind. The novelty is not worn off.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely wild. That's so funny. But yeah, make sure you go and check him out. All those links will be down below in the description. Make sure you like and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. And you guys know you can find me on all the social medias. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Slasher, all at Bucket of Chum Podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Bucket of Chum. And just for $3 a month, you can support the podcast. You get monthly episodes, a newsletter, all sorts of fun stuff. And that's it for this week for Seasick Cinema. And I'll see you guys next time for an all-new episode of Bucket of Chum.